I am Enid, 30 years old, and I never thought I would be the one to walk away from my family. For years, I was the responsible daughter, the one who did everything right yet somehow always ended up with the short end of the stick. Last Christmas was supposed to be different. I really believed things would change. Instead, my sister Amanda got a $65,000 BMW with a perfect red bow, while I unwrapped a $3 piggy bank. That night, I made a decision that would change everything. Before I dive into this emotional roller coaster, let me know where you are watching from in the comments. Hit that like button and subscribe to join me on this journey of self-discovery. Growing up in our suburban home in Portland, I always felt like I was living in Amanda's shadow. From the moment my parents, Jessica and Howard, brought my sister home from the hospital when I was 5, it became clear that she was the golden child. Amanda had this effervescent personality, blonde curls that bounced when she walked, and a smile that could charm anyone. I was the opposite, with my serious demeanor, straight brown hair, and tendency to get lost in books, rather than be the center of attention. The pattern of favoritism started small, but grew more obvious over time. When Amanda turned 7, our parents threw her a princess-themed birthday party with a hired entertainment company, bouncy castle, and custom cake that must have cost hundreds of dollars. 30 kids from her class were invited, and she received so many presents that we had to make multiple trips to bring them inside. Just 2 months earlier, my 12th birthday had consisted of pizza with my 3 closest friends and a store-bought cake. My parents explained they were busy with work that weekend, so we kept it simple. When I brought home straight, as on my report card, my father would nod approvingly and say, "That's what we expect from you, Enid." But when Amanda got her first B- in science, they took her out for ice cream to celebrate her improvement from a C+. My mother hung Amanda's artwork all over the refrigerator while my writing awards gathered dust on my bookshelf. By the time I turned 16, I had accepted my role in the family. I got a part-time job at the local library, saved every penny, and focused on building my future. Meanwhile, Amanda received a $200 monthly allowance for simply existing. When she wanted new clothes, our parents took her shopping without hesitation. When I needed anything, the response was always the same. "You have a job now, Enid. It is good for you to learn financial responsibility." College only widened the gap between us. I had applied for scholarships, worked multiple jobs, and took out loans to attend State University, where I majored in accounting. I lived in the cheapest dorm-ate ramen noodles more often than I care to remember and still graduated with $20,000 in debt. My parents contributed exactly $3,000 toward my education over 4 years, which barely covered my textbooks. Amanda, on the other hand, was fully funded through her ever-changing college journey. She started as a communications major, switched to psychology after 2 years, then pivoted to business, then art history. 6 years into her college experience, she still had no degree, but had managed to study abroad in Paris, live in luxury apartments near campus, and never work a day in her life. My parents justified this by saying Amanda is finding herself. College is about exploration. After graduation, I found a solid accounting position at a mid-sized firm. I lived frugally in a 1-bedroom apartment, drove the used Honda my parents had given me for high school graduation, and diligently paid off my student loans. Amanda continued her perpetual student status, now pursuing interior design at age 25, living in a downtown apartment our parents paid for, and posting glamorous photos of her weekends at music festivals and spa retreats on social media. I had tried addressing the disparity several times over the years. When I was 22, I gathered my courage during a family dinner and asked why they were so much more generous with Amanda. My mother looked genuinely confused. "What are you talking about, Enid? We have always treated you both equally. You are just naturally more independent." My father added, "We are proud of how responsible you are. Amanda needs more guidance and support. You should be flattered that we trust you to handle things on your own." Their response left me feeling like I was the unreasonable one, like I was imagining the whole thing. After that conversation, I stopped bringing it up, but the resentment continued to grow. Despite everything, I still craved their approval. Every year I returned home for Christmas, hoping this would be the time they would see me, really see me. Last December, as I packed my carefully selected gifts into my car, I promised myself this Christmas would be different. I would be more present, more engaging. Maybe they just did not know how to connect with me. Maybe if I tried harder, they would finally show me the same love they showed Amanda. I had no idea how wrong I was. I spent weeks planning the perfect gifts for my family despite my limited budget. For my mother, I found a vintage brooch at an antique shop that looked just like one her grandmother had owned. For my father, I splurged on a first edition of his favorite mystery novel from the 1970s. For Amanda, I bought a cashmere scarf I could barely afford. I even remembered a special toy for her cat Mittens. I wrapped each present carefully in beautiful paper with hand-tied bows and handwritten tags. The 4-hour drive to my parents' suburban home gave me plenty of time to rehearse positive conversations in my head. This year will be different, I told myself as Christmas songs played on the radio. Just stay positive and focus on creating good memories. When I pulled into the driveway, my mother actually came out to greet me with a hug. Enid, we were beginning to worry you would not make it before dark. Her unexpected warmth gave me a flicker of hope. The house looked like something from a magazine spread. A giant wreath hung on the front door, garlands wrapped around the banisters, and the 12-foot Christmas tree in the living room was decorated with hundreds of twinkling lights and glass ornaments. The familiar scent of cinnamon and pine filled the air, bringing back childhood memories of happier times. Your father is in the den watching the game. Why not take your things up to your room and then join us for some hot cocoa, my mother suggested. My old bedroom had been converted to a guest room years ago, stripped of any personality or evidence that I had ever lived there. Meanwhile, Amanda's childhood bedroom remained exactly as she had left it, preserved like a shrine even though she had her own apartment downtown. I had barely unpacked when I heard the front door open and Amanda's voice echoing through the house. We are here. Where is everyone? My sister arrived with her boyfriend Tyler, both of them dressed in designer clothes and carrying multiple shopping bags. Amanda looked like she had just stepped out of a magazine, her hair freshly highlighted, her nails perfectly manicured. Enid, oh my God, that sweater is so retro, she exclaimed when she saw me coming down the stairs. I was not sure if it was a compliment or an insult, but I smiled anyway. Good to see you, Amanda. Hi, Tyler. Tyler gave me a dismissive nod before launching into a story about their recent weekend trip to Aspen. The snow conditions were absolutely perfect. Amanda took a private lesson with an instructor who used to train Olympic athletes. My parents hung on every word, asking questions and expressing appropriate amazement at all the right moments. When the conversation finally hit a lull, I mentioned a challenging project I had recently completed at work, but my father quickly interrupted. That reminds me, Amanda, did you tell us about that interior design competition you entered? Just like that, I was invisible again. Dinner preparations revealed more subtle examples of the imbalance in our family dynamic. My mother had prepared all of Amanda's favorite foods, including the green bean casserole she specifically requested. When I offered to help in the kitchen, my mother assigned me the task of peeling potatoes, while she and Amanda worked on the more enjoyable tasks of decorating cookies and arranging the charcuterie board. At the dinner table, Amanda was seated at my father's right hand, her usual place of honor. I sat across from them next to Tyler, who spent most of the meal texting under the table. The conversation revolved around Amanda's studies, Amanda's friends, Amanda's plans for the future. Tyler and I are thinking about getting a place together next year, Amanda announced. Something with enough space for me to set up a home office for my design work. That is wonderful, sweetheart, my mother beamed. Your father and I would be happy to help with the deposit. I nearly choked on my water. They had refused to co-sign my lease when I moved into my current apartment, claiming they did not want to enable financial dependence. The only person who seemed to notice my discomfort was my grandmother, Lillian, who had arrived just before dinner. She reached under the table and squeezed my hand gently. How is your job going, Enid? She asked. Still working with that nice boss you mentioned last time? For a few minutes, I was the center of attention as I told Grandma Lillian about my recent promotion. She listened intently, asking thoughtful questions and expressing genuine pride in my accomplishments. It was a small moment of validation in an otherwise deflating evening. After dinner, we gathered in the living room for coffee and dessert. The conversation turned to holiday plans, and Amanda dominated again with stories about the New Year's Eve party she and Tyler were attending at a famous musician's house. "What about you, Enid? Any special plans for New Year's, Grandma?" Lillian asked. "Actually, I volunteered to work the holiday shift. The company offers triple pay, and I am saving up for some home improvements," I explained. My father shook his head. "Always working. You need to learn to enjoy life a little, Enid." The irony of his statement was not lost on me. I had been working continuously since I was 16 because they had taught me that was what I needed to do to earn my place in the world. That night, as I lay in the impersonal guest bed staring at the ceiling, I wondered why I kept putting myself through this year after year. Yet a small part of me still held on to hope that tomorrow, Christmas morning, things might somehow be different. Maybe this would be the year they would see me as equal to Amanda. Maybe this would be the year I would finally feel like I belonged. I fell asleep, clinging to that fragile hope, unaware that the next day would shatter it completely. Christmas morning dawned bright and cold sunlight, reflecting off the fresh dusting of snow that had fallen overnight. For a brief moment as I woke up, I felt a childlike excitement, the same feeling I had experienced on Christmas mornings as a little girl before I understood my place in the family hierarchy. I pulled on my red and green plaid pajamas, the ones I had specifically packed for Christmas morning photos, and headed downstairs. The house smelled of coffee, bacon, and cinnamon rolls, my father's traditional Christmas breakfast that he made only once a year. "There she is," my father called from the kitchen. "I was about to send Amanda up to wake you. Coffee." The kitchen was warm and inviting. My mother was arranging cinnamon rolls on a festive plate, while Amanda and Tyler sat at the island counter already dressed in coordinating Christmas sweaters. Grandma Lillian sat in her usual spot by the window, smiling warmly at me. "Merry Christmas, everyone," I said, accepting the mug of coffee my father offered. "Merry Christmas, dear," my mother replied. "Let us eat breakfast first, then we can open presents." Breakfast was surprisingly pleasant. We shared stories of past Christmases, laughed at my father's attempt to carve the turkey one year that resulted in a trip to the emergency room, and for once I felt included in the family memories. After breakfast, we gathered around the enormous Christmas tree in the living room. Presents spilled out from under the lower branches, wrapped in coordinating paper with elaborate bows. My small collection of gifts looked humble in comparison, but I was proud of the thought I had put into each one. My father appointed himself as Santa, distributing gifts one by one as was our family tradition. First came the stockings filled with small items and candy. Amanda's stocking contained a pair of designer sunglasses, a gift card to her favorite spa, and artisanal chocolates. Mine held a chapstick, a pack of hair ties, and a $10 gift card to a coffee shop. "Thanks, Mom and Dad," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Next came the wrapped presents. Amanda received a designer handbag, a cashmere sweater, set the latest iPhone, and a weekend getaway package to a luxury resort. Tyler, who had only been dating Amanda for 9 months, received an expensive watch and golf clubs. When it was my turn, I unwrapped a generic scented candle, a calendar featuring motivational quotes, and a plain black cardigan that was at least one size too large. "We thought you could use it for work," my mother explained. "Thank you," I said, forcing a smile. "It is very practical." Finally, my father handed me a small, crudely wrapped package. "This last one is special," he said with a strange smile. I unwrapped it carefully to find a cheap plastic piggy bank in the shape of a cartoon character. A $3 price tag was still attached to the bottom. "Because you are always saving," my father explained, laughing. "Get it." Amanda giggled. "It is perfect for you, Enid, so on brand." I stared at the piggy bank, feeling blood rush to my face. Was this some kind of joke? Had they really given Amanda thousands of dollars worth of gifts, while giving me a $3 novelty item? Before I could respond, my father stood up dramatically. "Wait, I think there is one more surprise outside." We all followed him to the front door. In the driveway sat a brand new BMW SUV with an enormous red bow on top. It was sleek black and obviously expensive. "Merry Christmas, Amanda," my parents exclaimed in unison. Amanda screamed with delight, jumping up and down. "Oh my God, are you serious? Is this really mine?" "All yours, princess," my father said, dangling the keys. "We know you have been wanting to upgrade from your Audi, and with your design business potentially taking off, we thought you needed something that matches your professional image." Amanda threw herself into our parents' arms, crying tears of joy. Tyler stood by, looking impressed. Grandma Lillian remained silent, her expression unreadable. I stood frozen on the porch, the plastic piggy bank still in my hand. The contrast could not have been more stark, a $65,000 luxury vehicle versus a $3 toy. In that moment, the lifetime of unequal treatment crystallized into perfect clarity. "Enid, are not you going to congratulate your sister?" my mother prompted. I mumbled something that must have been acceptable and retreated inside, claiming I needed to use the bathroom. As I passed the kitchen, I overheard my father talking to Tyler. "Enid does not need fancy things. She is practical, always has been. Probably would not even appreciate something like that BMW. Amanda, though she understands quality." Then I heard Amanda's voice. "Plus, can you imagine Enid driving a BMW with her wardrobe? It would be such a waste." They laughed together, unaware that I could hear them. My mother joined in. At least she liked the piggy bank. Sometimes I worry she has no sense of humor. I slipped upstairs unnoticed, locked myself in the guest bathroom, and sat on the edge of the tub, struggling to breathe through the tightness in my chest. I had spent hundreds of dollars on thoughtful gifts for them, while they had given me items that totaled less than $50, including a gag gift that was meant to poke fun at my frugality, a trait I had developed out of necessity, because they had never supported me financially. More painful than the gifts themselves was the realization that they saw nothing wrong with this disparity. In their eyes, this was normal. This was acceptable. This was what I deserved. I splashed cold water on my face and looked in the mirror. "You are never going to be enough for them," I whispered to my reflection. "No matter what you do, you will always be worth less than Amanda." I rejoined the family with a fake smile plastered on my face, but inside something had shifted. I was done trying to earn love that would never be given freely. I was done accepting scraps from the table while Amanda feasted. I just needed to make it through the rest of the day without breaking down. That night, as everyone celebrated around me, I made a decision that would change everything. After everyone had gone to bed, I lay awake in the guest room, replaying the events of the day in my mind. The expensive gifts for Amanda, the cheap trinkets for me, the BMW with its perfect red bow, the $3 piggy bank with the price tag still attached, the laughter at my expense. Tears slid silently down my face and onto the pillow. I had spent years making excuses for my parents' behavior, telling myself they did not mean to hurt me, that they loved us both equally, but just showed it differently. Today had shattered that illusion completely. Unable to sleep, I got up and wandered around the room, opening drawers out of habit. This had been my bedroom until I left for college, when it was quickly converted to a guest room. Almost all traces of my childhood had been erased, but the desk in the corner was still the same one I had used for homework all those years ago. I opened the bottom drawer, not expecting to find anything personal, but there was a folder I had forgotten about. Inside were various documents I had stored there during high school, my birth certificate, social security card, and several other papers I had thought important enough to keep. Among them was the title to the Honda I now drove. My parents had given me the car as a high school graduation present, making a big show of handing me the keys with a speech about how proud they were of me. But looking at the title now, I noticed something strange. The car had been registered in my name from the beginning, not transferred from theirs as I had always assumed. Curious, I pulled out my phone and logged into my bank account. I scrolled back through years of transactions and found regular payments to an auto loan company starting from the month after graduation. My parents had not given me a car. They had taken out a loan in my name, made a few payments to establish the account, and then I had unwittingly taken over the payments, believing I was paying for insurance and maintenance on a gifted vehicle. My hands shaking, I dug deeper into the folder. There was a student loan document I did not recognize showing a private loan in addition to the federal loans I knew about. Again, my signature was on the document, but I had no memory of signing it. Had they forged my signature, or had they slipped it into a stack of forms when I was 17 and told me it was standard college application paperwork? The more I looked, the more I found. A credit card opened in my name when I was 19 that I had never used but that had carried a balance. Additional student loans beyond what I had been aware of. All with my name, all with payments coming from my accounts. A cold clarity washed over me. I had not only been less favored than Amanda, I had been actively exploited. While they funded her education, her cars, her apartments, they had been saddling me with debt I did not even know existed. I sat on the floor, surrounded by papers, a lifetime of financial manipulation laid bare before me. In that moment, I knew I could not stay. Not for one more breakfast, not for one more fake smile, not for one more comparison to my perfect sister. I began packing methodically, taking only what I absolutely needed: clothes, toiletries, important documents. I left behind the gifts they had given me that day, including the piggy bank. On the guest room desk, I left a brief note. I know about the loans and the car. I know what you have done. Do not contact me. I waited until 3 in the morning when the house was silent. Everyone would be deeply asleep after the Christmas festivities and drinks. I carried my bags down the stairs, carefully avoiding the third step that always creaked. I placed my house key on the entryway table next to my note. The night was cold and clear, stars visible in the winter sky. I loaded my bags into the Honda. The car I now knew had never truly been a gift. I backed out of the driveway, slowly, lights off, until I reached the street, and then I drove away from my childhood home for what I believed would be the last time. At the first gas station I found open, I pulled over and blocked their numbers on my phone. My mother, my father, Amanda, even Tyler. I could not deal with their calls, their explanations, their attempts to make me doubt what I now knew to be true. Only Grandma Lillian remained unblocked, though I did not expect to hear from her soon. I drove through the night, no clear destination in mind. Just the need to put distance between myself and the family that had never valued me. As the sun began to rise, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, I spotted a roadside motel and decided to stop. I needed sleep, and I needed time to process what had happened and decide what to do next. The motel room was basic but clean. I collapsed onto the bed, emotionally and physically exhausted, and fell into a deep, dreamless sleep. When I woke hours later, I would begin the process of rebuilding my life on my terms, without the weight of seeking approval I would never receive. For the first time in my life, despite everything, I felt strangely free. I woke up disoriented in the unfamiliar motel room, momentarily confused about where I was and how I had gotten there. Then the memories of Christmas Day and my midnight escape came flooding back. I checked my phone: 12 missed calls from my mother, 8 from my father, 3 from Amanda, and a string of text messages demanding to know where I was and why I had left. I ignored them all, still protected by the blocks I had put in place. I ordered delivery food to my room and tried to figure out my next steps. I had enough savings to stay at the motel for about a week, but I would need to return to my apartment and my job eventually. Just as I was contemplating a shower, my phone rang. It was an unknown number, but something told me to answer it. "Enid, it is Dad. Why are you not answering our calls? Your mother is worried sick." They had called from a different phone to bypass my block. My father's voice was not concerned but angry. "I found the documents," I said simply. There was a pause then. "What documents?" "What are you talking about?" "You need to come home right now and stop this nonsense. The car loan, the student loans, the credit card, all in my name, all without my knowledge." Another pause, longer this time. "You are being dramatic. We helped you with all of that. Now listen to me carefully. You need to bring back that car immediately, or we will report it stolen." I almost laughed. "The car is in my name, Dad. I have the title. I have been making the payments for years. You cannot report your own car stolen." I heard muffled voices as he presumably covered the phone to discuss with my mother. When he came back on the line, his tone had changed from angry to manipulative. "Enid, sweetheart, I think you are under a lot of stress. We only want what is best for you. Why not come back and we can talk about this as a family?" "There is nothing to talk about. Please do not contact me again." I hung up and immediately blocked the new number, my hands shaking. I needed advice, but I did not have many close friends due to my workaholic lifestyle. After some thought, I called Melanie, a coworker who had become something of a friend over the past year. "Melanie, it is Enid. I am sorry to bother you during the holidays, but I am having a family crisis and could use some advice. Melanie listened without judgment as I explained the situation. When I finished, she let out a low whistle. First of all, you were right to leave. What they did is financial abuse, possibly fraud. Second, you need to protect yourself legally. She helped me make a list of immediate actions, check my credit report, contact the loan companies, gather evidence of payments I had made, and consider consulting an attorney. She also offered her spare bedroom if I needed a place to stay until I felt safe returning to my apartment. They know where I live, I explained. I am worried they might show up there. Then come stay with me, she insisted. No one should be alone after something like this. I accepted her offer gratefully and checked out of the motel. On the drive to Melanie's place, I stopped at a library to use their computer. I needed to check my credit report without potentially triggering any notifications to my parents' address. What I found stunned me. Beyond what I had already discovered, there was a home equity line of credit opened using my identity 3 years earlier. The address listed was my parents' house, a property I had never owned. There were also store credit cards I had never applied for, all with varying balances. My seemingly perfect upper-middle-class parents had been systematically using my credit and identity for years while simultaneously funding Amanda's lavish lifestyle. The depth of the betrayal was staggering. That evening, while scrolling through my email, I found a message from my grandmother Lillian sent that morning. Enid, I know you left. I understand why. Your parents are not telling me much, but I have suspected things were not right for some time. Please let me know you are safe when you can. Love, Grandma. I sent her a brief reply letting her know I was safe but needed space. Her response came quickly. Take all the time you need. I have some information that might help you. Call me when you are ready. Meanwhile, my parents escalated their efforts to contact me. They called my workplace claiming it was a family emergency. They reached out to the few friends they knew about. Amanda posted vague but concerning messages on social media, suggesting I was mentally unstable and the family was worried about my well-being. Anyone here from my sister Enid family is super concerned. She left Christmas night in a strange state of mind. Please contact me if you see her. The post was accompanied by a photo of me from Thanksgiving looking tired and unmade, up next to a perfectly polished Amanda. The comments were filled with concerned friends offering support and prayers for the family during this difficult time. It was character assassination disguised as concern. 3 days after Christmas, I received an email from my father with the subject line, Urgent Legal Action. Enid, your behavior is unacceptable. You have taken property that does not belong to you and made false accusations against your family. If you do not return home immediately, we will be forced to take legal action. Additionally, we have contacted Dr. Morris about having you evaluated for a psychiatric hold given your erratic behavior and paranoid delusions. Dr. Morris was our family physician who had known my parents for decades. The threat of being forcibly committed was terrifying but also illuminating. They were willing to go to extreme lengths to regain control over me. I forwarded the email to Melanie, who had a friend who worked as a paralegal. Through this connection, I was able to secure a consultation with Franklin Porter, an attorney specializing in identity theft and family law. Based on what you have shown me, Attorney Porter said during our meeting, you have a strong case for identity theft and fraud. The car is legally yours as you have the title and have been making payments. As for their threats of psychiatric holds, that would be extremely difficult for them to accomplish without evidence of you being a danger to yourself or others. He advised me to send a formal cease and desist letter and to file police reports about the fraudulent accounts. The idea of filing charges against my own parents was overwhelming, but I knew it might be necessary to protect myself. As I was leaving his office, I received a text from Grandma Lillian. I have documents you need to see. Can we meet somewhere private? Just us. It was time to learn what my grandmother knew. I arranged to meet Grandma Lillian at a quiet cafe halfway between her retirement community and Melanie's apartment. I arrived early, securing a table in the back corner where we could talk privately. When she walked in, I hardly recognized her. My grandmother had always been elegant and composed, but today she looked tired and older, burdened by what she knew. Enid, she said, embracing me tightly. I am so glad you are safe. We ordered coffee, and once the server left, Grandma Lillian placed a large envelope on the table. I have suspected something was wrong for years, she began. The way they treated you compared to Amanda never sat right with me, but I did not know the extent of it until recently. She explained that 3 months ago she had overheard my parents discussing financial matters when they thought she was napping during a visit. They were talking about transferring funds between accounts and your name came up. Jessica said something about using your excellent credit score one more time before you might notice. After that conversation, my grandmother had started paying closer attention. She had access to some family financial documents because my father had added her to certain accounts after my grandfather died. What she found disturbed her deeply. They used your college fund to pay for Amanda's first car when she turned 16, she revealed. The money my late husband and I had specifically set aside for both of our granddaughters' education. Your portion disappeared years ago. She pushed the envelope toward me. Inside were bank statements, transfer records, and a copy of the original trust document specifying equal amounts for both Amanda and me. There is more, she continued, her voice breaking slightly. When your grandfather died, he left individual bequests to both you and Amanda, $20,000 each to be given when you turned 25. Amanda received hers last year for her 25th birthday, yours. Let me guess, I said, my throat tight. Mine disappeared too. Grandma Lillian nodded sadly. Howard told me you had requested the money early for student loans, but I never believed you would ask without telling me. I should have questioned it more forcefully. I reached across the table and took her hand. This is not your fault, Grandma. Maybe not, but I stood by while they treated you differently your entire life. I made excuses, told myself it was not my place to interfere. I failed you, Enid. We spent 2 hours going through the documents. The picture that emerged was worse than I had imagined. My parents had systematically diverted funds meant for me to Amanda, used my identity to secure loans and credit, and manipulated financial trusts established by my grandparents. By the time we finished our 3rd cup of coffee, I had a complete understanding of the situation and a decision to make. I have an appointment with an attorney later this week, I told my grandmother. With these documents and what I have already gathered, he believes we have a strong case against them. Will you press charges? She asked quietly. I do not know yet. Part of me wants to, but another part just wants to cut ties completely and move on with my life. After our meeting, Attorney Porter reviewed the new evidence and suggested a different approach. Before we take legal action, let us try a formal confrontation in a controlled environment. I can arrange a meeting here at my office. We present the evidence, state your demands, and see how they respond. The meeting was scheduled for the following Monday. Attorney Porter sent a formal letter to my parents requiring their presence to discuss matters related to Enid Harper's financial records and identity. To my surprise, they agreed to attend. When the day arrived, I sat in Attorney Porter's conference room, hands clasped tightly in my lap to stop them from shaking. Grandma Lillian sat beside me for moral support. Attorney Porter had arranged for a financial forensic specialist to join us as well. My parents arrived exactly on time, both dressed impeccably as if attending a business meeting rather than a confrontation about their betrayal of their daughter. They looked shocked to see Grandma Lillian there. What is this about? My father demanded as they sat down. And why is Lillian here? Mr. and Mrs. Harper, I have been retained by your daughter Enid to address some serious financial discrepancies we have discovered. Attorney Porter began formally. Mrs. Lillian Harper is here as both a witness and an affected party. What followed was the most difficult 2 hours of my life. Attorney Porter methodically presented the evidence: the car loan, the student loans, the credit cards, the misappropriated trust funds, the diverted college savings, and the fraudulent home equity line of credit. With each new revelation, my parents' expressions shifted from indignation to discomfort to poorly concealed guilt. When Attorney Porter finished his presentation, he looked directly at them. These actions constitute identity theft, fraud, breach of fiduciary duty, and possibly elder abuse regarding the manipulation of Mrs. Price's, Lillian Harper's, access to information about the trusts she established. Enid has grounds for both criminal charges and civil action. The silence that followed was deafening. Finally, my mother spoke, her voice trembling slightly. There has clearly been a misunderstanding. We only wanted what was best for both our daughters. By stealing from one to give to the other, I asked, finding my voice at last. By opening credit cards in my name without my knowledge. By taking out loans I did not authorize. You always had everything you needed, my father countered defensively. Amanda required more support. Her needs were different. Different how? Because she wanted more. Because she demanded more. Or because you simply loved her more. My mother gasped. That is not true. We love you both equally. Equal love does not look like this, I said, gesturing to the documents spread across the conference table. Equal love does not give one daughter a BMW and the other a $3 piggy bank. You were always so independent, so self-sufficient, my father argued. Amanda needed our help to find her path. I was independent because I had to be. You gave me no choice. Grandma Lillian intervened as emotions threatened to derail the meeting. Howard, Jessica, I raised you better than this, she said to my father and his wife. What you have done is not just unfair, it is illegal and immoral. The confrontation continued, with my parents offering weak justifications and deflections. They claimed they had intended to pay back the loans. They insisted they had only done what was necessary to give both daughters what they needed. They suggested that I had always been difficult and unappreciative of their sacrifices. As their excuses mounted, I felt a strange sense of clarity and calm wash over me. Nothing they could say would change what they had done or make it acceptable. Here are my terms, I said, interrupting my father mid-sentence. You will pay off all fraudulent debts in my name. You will restore my portion of the trust fund established by Grandpa. You will sign documents acknowledging what you have done. And then you will respect my decision to have no further contact with you. My mother began to cry. You cannot be serious. We are your parents. Parents do not steal from their children, I replied steadily. Parents do not commit fraud using their daughter's identity. Parents do not give one child everything and the other nothing. My father's expression hardened. If you do this, if you force these terms on us, you are no longer our daughter. Is that what you want? To destroy this family over money? This has never been about money, I said quietly. This has been about love, fairness, and basic respect. You destroyed this family, not me. I am just finally standing up for myself. The meeting ended with an ultimatum. Either they would agree to my terms or Attorney Porter would file both civil and criminal complaints the following day. They had 24 hours to decide. As they left, my mother turned back, tears streaming down her face. Please, Enid, think about what you are doing. Think about Amanda. She will be devastated. Perhaps it is time Amanda learned that actions have consequences, Grandma Lillian responded before I could, both yours and hers. When the door closed behind them, I finally allowed myself to cry, releasing years of pain, confusion, and self-doubt. Whatever they decided, I had spoken my truth. I had stood my ground. For the first time in my life, I had demanded to be seen and valued. The family I had known was gone, but perhaps something healthier could eventually take its place. If not, I would build a new family of my choosing, one based on mutual respect and genuine love. The first few weeks after the confrontation were some of the hardest of my life. My parents ultimately agreed to my terms more out of fear of legal consequences than any genuine remorse. Attorney Porter handled all communication with them, sparing me the emotional toll of further interaction. They paid off the fraudulent debts, restored my portion of the trust fund, and signed the required acknowledgments. But the legal resolution did nothing to heal the emotional wounds. I fluctuated between grief, anger, relief, and crushing doubt. Had I done the right thing? Had I overreacted? Should I have tried harder to maintain family connections despite everything? Melanie proved to be an incredible support during this time. She let me stay in her spare room for a month while I processed my emotions and decided what to do next. She never judged my tears or my occasional bursts of anger, just listened and offered perspective when I asked for it. Family is supposed to build you up, not tear you down, she reminded me one evening when I was questioning my decision to cut ties. The way they treated you was not normal or acceptable. I also began seeing Dr. Patricia Wilson, a therapist specializing in family trauma and recovery. Our weekly sessions helped me understand the dynamics that had shaped my family and my place within it. What you experienced is called scapegoating, Dr. Wilson explained during one session. Families often unconsciously assign roles to members. Your sister was the golden child who could do no wrong, while you were assigned the role of the responsible one, the one who needed less, the one who existed to make things easier for everyone else. But why, I asked, why would parents treat their children so differently? It rarely has anything to do with the actual children, she replied. It often reflects the parent's own unresolved issues and needs. Some parents live vicariously through the golden child, while expecting the scapegoat to fulfill a different role by being responsible, independent, and requiring little emotional investment. Understanding the patterns did not excuse what my parents had done, but it helped me see that their treatment of me was not my fault. I had not been less lovable or less deserving. I had simply been cast in a role that served their emotional needs at my expense. 3 months after the confrontation, I felt strong enough to return to my apartment. I sold the Honda that had so many negative associations and bought a modest used Toyota with some of the trust fund money. It was liberating to drive a car that was truly mine with no hidden strings or manipulations attached. I established firm boundaries with extended family members who tried to pressure me into reconciliation. Many of them did not know the full story and saw me as the villain who had abandoned my family over a Christmas gift disparity. "You do not owe anyone an explanation," Grandma Lillian advised, when I expressed frustration over these interactions. "Those who matter will believe you. Those who do not believe you do not matter." Grandma Lillian became an even more important part of my life. We spoke weekly and had dinner together twice a month. She shared family stories and photos I had never seen, helping me preserve the positive aspects of my heritage while acknowledging the painful realities of my immediate family. 6 months after Christmas, I received a promotion at work. The additional income and regular therapy sessions had helped me build a more balanced life. I developed new friendships through a book club and a hiking group, creating the supportive community I had always craved. Around this time, I also received an unexpected email from Amanda. "I do not know if you will read this, but I need to talk to you. Things have changed. I understand more now. Please call me if you are willing." My first instinct was to ignore it, but after discussing it with Dr. Wilson, I agreed to meet Amanda at a neutral location. I was surprised by what I found. Gone was the perfectly polished golden child. The Amanda who met me at the cafe looked tired and subdued. "Mom and Dad cut me off," she said without preamble. "After everything with you, they said they could not afford to support me anymore. I had to get a real job, move to a cheaper apartment, sell the BMW." I waited, unsure where this was going. "At first I was so angry at you," she continued. "I blamed you for ruining everything. But then I found some documents when I was helping them organize their home office. I saw what they had done to you. All these years." Tears filled her eyes. "I had no idea, Enid. I swear. I knew they favored me, but I did not know they were stealing from you, using your identity, taking your inheritance. I feel horrible." "You were a child when it started," I said carefully. "It was not your responsibility to recognize or stop it. But I participated in it as an adult," she countered. "I accepted their gifts, knowing you received less. I made jokes at your expense. I believed their narrative that you were just naturally independent while I needed more support." Our conversation lasted for hours. Amanda had experienced her own reckoning with our parents, coming to terms with her role as the golden child and the damage it had done to both of us. She had started therapy herself and was learning to stand on her own for the first time in her life. "I do not expect forgiveness," she said as we prepared to leave. "I just wanted you to know that I see the truth now, and I am sorry for my part in it." It was the beginning of a new tentative relationship between us. Not the instant restoration of sisterly bonds, but a careful reconstruction based on honesty and mutual respect. We agreed to monthly coffee meetings, a small but significant step toward healing. 1 year after the fateful Christmas that had changed everything, I hosted a small gathering at my apartment. Grandma Lillian was there, along with Melanie, a few colleagues who had become friends, and even Amanda. It was not a traditional family holiday, but it was warm and genuine in a way my family celebrations had never been. As I looked around at these people who valued me for who I was, not what I could do for them or what role I could play, I realized how far I had come. The pain had not disappeared entirely, but it had transformed into something manageable, something that had ultimately led me to a healthier place. The most important lesson I learned through this journey was that family is not just about blood relations. Family consists of people who see your worth, respect your boundaries, and love you without conditions or comparisons. Sometimes that includes biological relatives, and sometimes it does not. The choice of who to include in your life is yours to make. Standing up for myself was the hardest thing I ever did, but also the most necessary. By refusing to accept mistreatment, I opened the door to authentic relationships based on mutual respect, rather than obligation or manipulation. True love does not require one person to diminish themselves, so another can shine brighter. I still have days when I grieve for the family I wished I had, but those days grow fewer as I build a life filled with genuine connections. Healing is not linear, and there is no perfect resolution to family trauma. But there is growth, there is peace, and there is the freedom to create a future unbound by past patterns. Have you ever had to make a difficult decision to protect yourself from toxic family dynamics? How did you find the strength to set boundaries when it felt like you were letting others down? Share your experiences in the comments below. Sometimes knowing we are not alone in these struggles is the first step toward healing. If my story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who might need to hear that it is okay to prioritize their own well-being. Thank you for joining me on this journey, and remember, your worth is not determined by how others treat you, but by the love and respect you learn to give yourself.